Bestsellers, man. Can you imagine if you were a best-selling author?
No. Literally no.
Hey readers, I'm Abby.
I'm Emma.
And on today's 6 Picks, we are talking about some great books that were bestsellers.
Now, it might seem funny to talk about bestsellers because it's like, okay, they're already popular. But I find sometimes if a book is everywhere, I kind of think like, oh, no, I'm good. And then I'll read it years later and be like, what was I waiting for?
We totally get the hype behind why these books sold so well. And if you haven't read them yet, we definitely think it's time to pick them up. My first pick is The Girls by Emma Cline, and this book is a stunning coming-of-age novel that you absolutely won't want to put down. It is set in Northern California in the late 1960s and follows Evie, who is a young woman who happens to see Suzanne, this compelling older girl, in a park one day. She's absolutely obsessed with the way that Suzanne carries herself, with what she wears, and so she begins to follow in Suzanne's footsteps straight into a cult. So we see Evie sort of following along on this path that is leading to danger. It's fascinating to see the enigmatic leader of this cult and what these people in this group is compelling Evie to do.
My first pick is A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan. It's one of my favorite books of all time.
It's a great choice.
It's a series of interconnected stories that form a novel, and it's very intricately plotted, almost like puzzle pieces, and I find that very satisfying. The writing is so specific and so evocative. It's got a very divisive ending. It's definitely a love it or hate it ending. The final story is kind of a departure from the rest of the book in ways that are very surprising and interesting. I actually kind of hate the last story, and even so, this is one of my favorite books, as I said. I think it's worth a read no matter what, and I mean, there are so many strange and interesting things that she does within several of the stories. One of them is a PowerPoint presentation. It's just great. I can't recommend it enough. And it won a Pulitzer, so I mean, what more do you need?
My second pick is Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann, and this is an absolutely fascinating nonfiction book that takes place in 1920s Oklahoma, when members of the Osage Nation were actually some of the richest people in America due to all of the oil that was underneath their land. But suddenly, members of the Osage start dropping dead. Some are poisoned, some are dead under very mysterious circumstances. So the nascent FBI, led by J. Edgar Hoover and his team of undercover agents, begin to look into the mystery, and what they end up uncovering is one of the most chilling conspiracies in all of American history.
My second pick is Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami, and this book is about a young boy coming of age. He's a college student in 1960s Tokyo, and I chose this book because, strangely, I had never read any Murakami at all, and I did a little research, and this seems like one of his most approachable books. It's very quiet and introspective. It does have some of his hallmarks. It has an interesting layered point of view and timeline, but it's not as out there and packed with magical realism as some of his other works, so it's a great entry point if you're also new to Murakami.
My third pick is Educated by Tara Westover. This is an absolutely transformative memoir that tells, in Tara's own voice, her life story, from being born to a family of survivalists in the Idaho mountains, to never setting foot in a classroom until she was 17 years old, to not going to a medical professional or a doctor because her family distrusted doctors. So when her brother sets off for college, she begins to see that education is going to open a lot of doorways. She teaches herself mathematics, grammar, and science enough to ace the ACT and get into Brigham Young University. Then she goes on to Harvard and finally ends up earning a PhD at Cambridge. This is an absolutely incredible story, and you will not soon forget Tara's amazing voice.
My final pick is An American Marriage by Tiari Jones. This is the story of a husband and wife's relationship. They are separated unexpectedly early in their marriage when the husband is wrongfully incarcerated for a crime he didn't commit. It's a book that is very popular right now and has been recommended to me by many, many friends and by Oprah.
And we trust Oprah implicitly.
My close personal friend, Oprah Winfrey. And one of my favorite things about the reading experience was the pleasant surprise that a large section of this book is epistolary, which is one of my favorite literary tropes.
So there you have it. Those are 6 of our favorite bestsellers. These books are obviously hot for a reason, and if you haven't read them yet, you must.
Do you have a bestseller that you absolutely love that you think has been unfairly maligned? Or despite being a bestseller, you still don't think enough people have read it? Let us know in comments below, or tweet at us at Read It Forward.
And for even more book recommendations, sign up for our weekly newsletter at readitforward.com/subscribe.